My name is David Otto. I am a counter-terrorism and organized crime expert, from an organization called TGS Intelligence and Consultants. I'm also a senior advisor to Global Risks International and the founder of Step In, Step Out, which is a program to deal with why people become involved in terrorism and why they what kind of strategies we can use for them to leave. I'm proud to be an alumni from the University of East London. I recognize a lot of faces here. We were the first batch in England to do the terrorism course. When I think in Scotland we had the St Andrews. So I'm very, very proud to be here today. And most importantly, I want to thank Professor Haram and Noah for organizing this initiative to talk about disaster. One of the greatest things which we have to understand is in the 20th century we lost more than 200 people, 200,000 souls, as a result of natural and man-made disasters. When the Paris bombing went off, I think Dalai Lama was interviewed, and he was asked about, whether we should pray for Paris. And one of the things which he said, which is very intriguing, is that, we should not ask God, to solve the problem of mankind. In terms of disasters, whether you look at it from a man-made perspective or a natural perspective, what we have to understand is, the greatest losses of any disaster that has occurred in the world has been as a result of man-made. So I think, man has a great responsibility in terms of reducing disasters. And because I come from a security background, I will talk about disasters from a security perspective. When we talk about natural and man-made disasters, I think recently we had the Hurricane Katrina, which has devastated a lot of countries in America, especially Haiti, where we lost more than 1,000 people. Those are natural disasters. You talk about the tsunami in Japan and Thailand, those are natural disasters. You talk about the Ebola virus and the Fukushima disasters. These are disasters which are entirely man-made disasters. But most importantly, when you look at the crisis that the world is facing today in areas like Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Nigeria, we're talking about the influence of man and the role that man plays in these disasters. So I think it's very important that, because we as human beings cannot actually control what nature can actually do to us, but we can mitigate it by managing those disasters which are caused by nature. But when it comes to man-made disasters, I think we have a responsibility to prevent those disasters, we have a responsibility to manage those disasters, and we even have a responsibility to ensure that those disasters do not occur in the first place. The war on terror is one of the biggest disasters that we're facing today in the world. I mean, after 9/11, terrorism has been happening before 9/11, but after the incident of 9/11, it became a global war on terror. And this global war on terror has turned out today to be a disaster for nature. It has turned out to be a disaster for man, because it's not just man that suffers, nature as well suffers. If you look at the activities of Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, ISIL, Al-Shabaab, it gives you that there's a certain existence of ignorance and arrogance by man in terms of the kind of man-made disasters that is being promoted in the world. So I think it's important, today I'll be talking more importantly about the Boko Haram disasters. This is a huge humanitarian crisis that is occurring in northern Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. But this disaster that is happening has led to more than 75,000 children who are actually suffering at the moment as we speak. I just came from Nigeria. You have about 4 million hungry people in Nigeria. You have refugees in the surrounding regions of Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and you even have refugees crossing through the Mediterranean. You have about 20,000 plus deaths, which has been caused as a result of Boko Haram's activities only. And I'm not talking about the activities of Al-Shabaab, the activities of ISIL and Al-Qaeda. You have a displacement of more than 2.2 up to 2.5 million within all these regions in the north. So I think it's important for us to understand the devastation that this disaster has caused. But this has been as a result of the current situation of Boko Haram, which is run by three groups, the Jama'atu al-Sunnah, leader Watil al-Jihad, by Abubakar Shekau, by the Cameroonian-born Mamanu and Sabru al-Iswa. These are the perpetrators of the current situation which is happening in the north. But the reason why I brought this up, the Boko Haram demography, because when you listen to the preachings of Abubakar Shekau, Mamanu, and you listen to their rhetorics, one of the key things which they keep mentioning is the idea of the Kanem Bunu Caliphate, which has been disrupted as a result of the introduction of a democratic system in the north. They believe this is as a result of a man's influence upon the environment in the north. And this has affected the regions of northern Nigeria, northern Cameroon, Niger, and Chad. So we have the Boko Haram, the map of Nigeria and the surrounding regions. We have the Kanuri tribe, which is most affected as a result of the crisis that happened in the north. And then you have the map of the Islamic Caliphate. You have the division which happened in Africa in 1884, 1885, which is a result of the division that existed between the African colonies and the Western colonies in dividing Africa within themselves. This has caused a lot of enormous hatred within the African settings, which is as a result of man-made disaster. And then you have the influence of the government of Nigeria, the modernization of Islam, the military dictatorships. So all these actions within the countries of Africa and the North, have actually led to a very, very devastating catastrophe that we are experiencing today with groups like Boko Haram. But then, we cannot forget about the ideological aspect of these organizations, which is also as a result of the influence of man, their resources, how they live, how this has been influenced by the manufacturers of arms, how this has been influenced by those who benefit from the organization. We talk about their tactics and target selection, which has led to the death of more than 20,000 people. These are all imminent man-made disasters that has to be addressed by the young people. So these are the areas which have been affected in the north. But what we keep saying to the global world, and especially to the youth, is that everyone's beard is now on fire. These organizations, are operating in Africa, but tomorrow they can be operating in the West. They have links through to Libya. They're sending militants across to Europe. So these are all disasters which the world can avoid. These are all disasters which young people are able to address if given the opportunity to address. So we visited some of the areas, to look at the amount of children who are out of school in the north. There are more than 10 million children out of school in the north. These are catastrophic disasters which, the world needs to address. Young people are looking for areas to escape. They're jumping on boats every day, going to the Mediterranean. These are all natural and man-made disasters that the world needs to address. Widows, in the west of Africa, Nigeria has one of the highest numbers of widows, and this is as a result of the killings of Boko Haram in the north. And then, of course, we have the displacement, which I spoke about, with young people coming to Europe. But how can we do this? We have to use prevent strategies. We have to implement damage limitation strategies. And then we also have to count on luck, because, when it comes to natural disasters, luck plays a good role. The most important thing is, when addressing some of these issues, we have to take into consideration that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So whatever we're doing in Africa, whatever we're doing in the West, we have to take into consideration the people who live there, and we have to take into consideration that strategies can only work if, the people who live in those areas are put in front, to address these strategies.